I finally paid off the student loan. Thank God. So if you've been along this journey with me for some time now, you'll know that I set a lofty goal for myself in 2021 to pay off one of my private student loans in full in 1 year. While it took me 17 months instead of 12, I stuck with it, and my New Year's resolution goal was finally completed in July of 2022. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the pros and cons of completing this challenge. I'll share with you my earnings were for Q2, as well as how I actually stuck with this goal despite the fact that I did not accomplish my goal in time. And lastly, tips for doing this yourself if you like to try and challenge yourself to hit some of your personal finance goals. I do have an income strategy guide that is completely free for download that will pretty much go over all the steps that I'll be outlining in today's video, and I'll leave it in the description box below to help you get started in case you're interested in taking the challenge yourself. As always, a full written review of everything we discussed in this week's video will be posted on the blog, and I'll leave it in the description box below. After successfully paying off my credit card debt, my medical debt, my car note, in order to finally get a handle on my personal finances, I had to realize that I didn't have a spending problem, I had an earnings problem. So to clarify, I have both private and federal student loans. And so I figured while my federal loans are on an administrative forbearance due to the pandemic, I figured now was the perfect time to really get a handle on paying off at least one of my private loans that I have had looming over my head for the last 15 years. Now, unlike federal loans, private loans aren't eligible for public service student loan forgiveness, and they can't be discharged in bankruptcy. I was pretty much stuck with the reality that I was going to have to pay this off or be stuck with them for at least the next 15 years. In addition to why I wanted to pay down the student loan debt so fast, is because I wanted my time back. In exchange for my financial freedom, I was willing to trade off 12 months in order to do side hustle gigs in exchange for financial freedom, because the alternative would be to spend the next 20 to 15 years working just to pay the interest on an outstanding loan balance that I got 15 years ago. Take a look at this amortization calculator provided by The Balance. It estimates that if I had waited 30 years to pay off an initial $15,000 private student loan, I would have ended up paying $22,000 in just interest only, with a total payoff of $37,000 to this predatory student loan lender in the year 2036. Now, even though on this channel I give tips and strategies specific to the DoorDash platform, I want to stress that it doesn't really matter what type of side hustle you do. Rather, just know you're focused down on a minimum earnings goal and stick with it. In other words, lower the bar. My minimum goal each day was just to earn $30 extra a day. Now, my income strategy guide does go into further detail about this and how I finally arrived on making DoorDash my primary source of side hustle income. So if that's something that you're interested in, be sure to check it out. If you are interested in pursuing DoorDash as your side hustle income or something similar, be prepared for that to pretty much dominate your time. This is not passive income by any means. Because this is active income and not passive, you're gonna need to make sure that you block out a set amount of hours within your day or week in order to generate a solid source of revenue. But if your aim is to really just kind of do it 1 or 2 hours here and there, you're not really gonna generate a ton of money unless you're using other types of ways to get around, like an electric bike or scooter. Now, with those types of ways to get around, you might actually do quite well within 1 or 2 hours, finding alternative routes to get to where you're going, and you don't even have to worry about parking. Traffic and finding parking is probably what's going to eat up the majority of your time dashing. So my earnings for Q2, they have definitely improved since last year. That's due to quite a few reasons. Now, as you may recall, last year we were just kind of getting out of a lockdown situation. And there were many restaurants who just did not survive that due to staff not returning to work, supply chain issues, simply not being able to transition from having an in-house menu to providing an online delivery service model. So due to that, DoorDash earnings for me significantly went down in 2021. In fact, when I filed my taxes on my profit and loss statement, it actually showed that I took a loss in my small business in comparison to my earnings from prior years. Now in 2022, my earnings have actually begun to stabilize despite threats of a possible recession looming.
When it comes to top issues facing the country, tracking with other numbers we've seen for several months now, 74% of Americans say the country is headed in the wrong direction. A record 58% believe America's best days are behind it. And 68% believe the United States currently is in a recession.
Now my increase in earnings might actually reflect that I had taken a hiatus from YouTube in order to focus more on this debt-free challenge, which meant that I was out on the roads a lot more. And a special shout out to all of you who have continued to tune in and subscribe to the channel despite my irregular posting schedule. So in April, I made a total of $1,429.93, and I did not apply any of those earnings in the month of April to my student loan balance. In May, I made a total of $962.89, and I applied $359.57 towards my student loan balance. And in June, I made a total of $1,611.35, and I applied $786.84 towards my student loan balance. And in July, I earned $1,714.37, and I completely paid off the remaining balance of my student loan, and the remaining balance was $1,869.80. There it goes. These rising temperatures definitely tested my level of commitment towards doing this challenge. There was terrible air quality, and it also didn't rain that much in quarter 2, which meant that I really had to figure out really creative ways to maximize my earning potential during my dashes, because rainy days are my top performing days to earn the most money for the week. So the top 3 things that became obstacles for me to complete this student loan challenge last quarter were gas prices, rising interest rates, and the cost of groceries. So with the inflated gas prices, I never once had to really factor this in before, because as you know, I usually focus more on mileage and how I can use it as a tax deduction at the end of the year. But this year was a little different. I found that gas prices were increasingly high. So to help with this, I use the Stride app. It has a gas buddy assistant that tells me where I can go and get gas. In addition to that, I just remembered to stick with my $2 per mile rule. If the order was less than $2 per mile, then I just did not do those orders. And those 2 things really helped me focus in on making sure that I was maximizing my earnings potential while I was on the road. Now with the rising interest rates, this is really great if you have high yield savings accounts and investment accounts, but it is terrible for people like me who are really working hard to try to get out of their debt. So these inflated interest rates can absolutely cripple you.
Student and auto loans comprise most of the non-housing debt, accounting for 35.7% and 33.7% of the total balance.
This is why it's been such a long suspension of repayment of federal student loans, because this is eerily similar to what happened in 2009.
Student debt has received a lot of attention because the rate of serious delinquency, that's 90 plus days past due, has risen to the highest of the debt types tracked by Equifax. So it surpassed credit card debt in the past about 10 years.
Private student loan interest rates are set by the lender, whereas federal student loans are set by Congress. If interest rates continue to rise, then borrowers may not be able to repay their student loans. Now take a look at the interest rate increase on my private student loans in comparison to last year. So while you can't do anything about inflated interest rates on your debt, the best thing is to attack more of the principal by making larger lump sum payments each month. Now my cost of groceries have always been an outstanding struggle for me. It's never consistent. This year has not made it any easier. In fact, when I went to CVS, I saw that the soap was locked up, which is apparently their #1 item that gets stolen. So the way I've been able to combat the cost inflation of groceries is to pretty much Marie Kondo my kitchen. I take all of my canned goods in my kitchen and I sort them and I figure out what I can make with that canned good. Just Googling recipes that have that one item as the main ingredient and buying groceries around that. Just a reminder, if you're finding value in this content, don't forget to give it a like. And if you're enjoying what you're watching, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And keep in mind that you can find all the details to this week's video on the blog. A link to that will be provided in the description box below. So what worked along the way? I would say starting small, and if necessary, go even smaller. If you've been joining me on this journey, you'll know that I initially set my goal for $50 each day. But then after reassessing what the economy was doing, I realized that I needed to make modifications, and so I changed it to $30 a day. That helped really take the pressure off of something that was completely out of my control. I couldn't control the direction the economy was going in, but I could modify my expectations around it. In one of my earlier videos, I did say that I was going to be unsubscribing to a lot of email subscription lists. And that definitely helped me to eliminate distractions and avoid the Black Friday deals and the best time to shop discounts that I normally would see in my inbox. I also learned that there was a such thing as hitting the reset button. If I just didn't achieve my goal towards putting a certain amount of money each month towards my student loan, I simply would just restart again the next month. I found the key to doing these types of challenges is to give yourself grace and allow yourself to hit the reset button. Each month I would come on here and I would just restart. I would try again every single month. If I didn't get what I wanted to get out of that month, I would just start again. The fact that I did not take in mind the Karma app that I use. If you're not familiar with the Karma app is a web browser extension and a mobile app that you can use to save items that you're interested in purchasing in the future, and you can set alerts for it so that it can show you when it's going on sale, if it has been out of stock for some time, and when there's been a price reduction, or when the item is low in stock. And using the Karma app has been really, really helpful. By the way, this video is not sponsored by Karma, but the reason for why I've always used it is to curb my need for instant gratification. So this app has really helped reframe my mindset around buying things that I may or may not need. However, during this challenge, I will say it did become a little counterintuitive, because if something that I had saved 6 months ago suddenly went on sale, I would then justify it by buying that thing instead of putting that money towards this debt repayment challenge.
Velvet slippies, cashmere socks, velvet pants, cashmere turtle. I'm a cashmere velvet candy cane. Treat yourself.
I'm not perfect. So what I did to stay motivated through this challenge is I made it a game in terms of making sure that I got that $30 by the end of the time frame that I had given myself to do it. Ideally, when you are doing these types of gigs, the goal is to make the most money in the shortest amount of time. That way you know for sure that you're maximizing your time while doing your deliveries. So if I hit my goal for that day, it was great. If I earned more than my goal, it was even better. But I took away the pressure by simply gamifying it and making it fun. I had to reframe my mind around the difference between a debt-free challenge versus a debt-free journey. So what I learned during this challenge is to have patience. Success is a journey, not a destination. The doing is often more important than the outcome. I had to reframe my priorities, realizing that I can't do all the things all the time. I couldn't also edit video and drive and do deliveries all at the same time. I had to decide which one was going to be a priority for me. It's also helped me learn how to appreciate my free time a lot more. Now, because I have so little time, I have learned to appreciate it, and I have reframed my brain around saying things like I have to I get to. I get to write for my blog. vlog. I get to record a video for you guys and put it on YouTube. I get to do the laundry today. Those things I have to make time for now, but I enjoy it. And it helped me rediscover what intrinsic motivation really means. So some of the benefits to having a student loan payment challenge or going on a debt-free journey is that you learn to hold yourself accountable. You know, you can do other things. You have the power to be able to accomplish other things. It also made me feel very self-empowered to know that I don't have to put up with certain things anymore because I'm not working to pay off a debt. I'm not beholden to a certain type of job or doing something that I don't like doing simply because I have to do it in order to pay someone else off. The time was my own. And so if I just didn't want to do something, then I just didn't want to do it. And there was no consequences around that because I had accomplished this really big goal of getting that student loan paid off. Another benefit to this type of challenge is realizing that not everybody's gonna get it, and that is okay because it's not their journey, it's yours. It also has helped me reshape my mind around saying I can afford something to how can I afford it. When you want to buy something nice for yourself, you don't have to always say things like, you know, I can't afford this or I can't afford that. Instead, you start reframing it and breaking it down into smaller steps. Well, what do I need to do to save up for that? What are the steps that I need to take to get that? How long is it going to take for me to get there? And that's kind of how I've been thinking about things, but I just always just assume, oh, it's not for me, I can't afford it. Well, now I'm thinking in terms of, well, how long is it going to take for me to get to that goal of getting what I want? Which leads me to my next point of being very intentional about the things that I do buy. So now I start to think of things in terms of how many pizza deliveries it's going to take to get to that thing. So that's part of one of the psychological changes that have gone through my mind is how much work is it going to take to get to that thing? If it's not really worth the delivery amount that I'm going to have to make in order to get that thing, then I just don't get it. It's also made me very confident that I could weather another recession. When I graduated in 2009, I was not at all prepared to enter into the working world as a young adult in a recession. And now that I have gotten out of so much financial strain, I think I'm in a good place to say that, yeah, I could probably handle it. I could figure it out. Would I recommend this challenge? No. I would, at least not for the length of time that I took to get it. Like, it took me 17 months to do this, but so no, if you have never done something like this, I wouldn't go to this extent. This is like trying to do a marathon before you've ever done a 5K. Start smaller would be my advice. Start with a much smaller personal finance goal and then work your way up. And that's essentially what I did. So there's definitely aspects of this challenge that I will be continuing to take away as a daily reminder in my day-to-day routine to really check myself and make sure I don't fall back on some of my old personal finance behaviors. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. I have waited 17 months to make this video, so it really does help me out, and I really appreciate it. All I can say is I have spent a lot of time delivering pizzas. But a super shout out to all of you and for us hitting 500 subscribers within the New On Color community. I've created a playlist for you in case you're interested in taking a walk down memory lane to see how it all started, or if you just want to skip around and see where I started in my debt-free journey.
Last but not least, I want to thank me.
Otherwise, in the meantime, you can catch me over on the blog, and a link to that will be provided in the description box below. All right, I'll see you guys on the next one.